This is my first experience with mocap doing Uncharted 2, and it takes a little bit of getting used to wearing this suit.
People don't know about mocap. You start everything with the T-pose, right?
Mark it. We're rolling.
I can't say enough about the experience. It's been a blast. I think the worst part of the whole process was the day that, and on the first Uncharted, where they brought me a brown mocap suit.
Can you please find that footage?
I wore a brown mocap suit. It looked like
A turd.
10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag is what it looked like. And it was just,
It was one size too small, too.
yeah. One size too small, it just was like awful.
Yeah.
No. It wasn't so hard to imagine the sets, and we got things to handle, so we've got the props and everything. And because often when film and television, it's the same thing. You only get half a set sometimes, or the suitcase isn't as heavy as it's supposed to be, or whatever. But it was working in those suits and trying to think of yourself as not being dressed in a black tight suit covered in little balls, with a cap on your head and the mic. To me, that was the hardest thing. Because wardrobe kind of makes an actor sometimes. You often talk about when you work as an actor, you find the shoes and the walk and the clothing of the actor and the makeup and all that. We don't have that. So we have to do the character, we have to imagine these clothes of the actor, of the character. That was the hardest part for me, actually.
Yeah, I'm a shoes girl. Whatever my character's shoes are, that really helps. And these are these sort of second-hand sweaty sneakers that hundreds and thousands of mocap actors have worn months beforehand. Sometimes the suits haven't been washed, so you sort of ignore the Febreze.
There's snothing quite like the snugness and the comfort of a mocap suit. Sometimes on the weekends I put mine on, light a nice cigar, have a glass of scotch.
Well, I'd say the most frustrating part about it was losing all my balls.
Oh, there they go. First ball
As well as,
First ball joke of the day.
Yeah, the first ball joke of the day. As well as playing tens in, I was playing all these soldiers that were killed. I don't know how many I played in this game. 16, 17, I don't know.
What was his nickname? We came up, Robin Atkin Down. Robin Atkin Down.
Yeah.
I think what I did enjoy, which is different to film and television, is in film and TV you do a master shot and you do a 2-shot, whereas a medium-sized shot, and then there's a close-up. And usually it's single camera, and you've got to do it over and over and over again. And what was freeing about this was we never had to worry about that, because you guys choose in the computer, right, when it's going to be a close-up and when it's going to be
Much more like theater now.
a wide shot. Yeah, so that part I really liked, actually.
And I really love, there's been times where I haven't quite understood the layout of the world that I'm in, and just asking one of the technical operators, because the whole time we're mocapping, we can see ourselves on the screen.
Right.
So I've been like, I'm not sure, or we don't know which way we need to move to get out of this room. Can you hover it to bird's eye view so that we can see this angle, and how long do we have to travel? And it's literally just at our fingertips right there, the entire world on screen. And we literally, there's endless jokes of us walking around and doing stuff because you can see it all on the screen in real time. I love that.
One thing that I think people aren't necessarily aware of is we don't actually capture the facial animation. We have 4 cameras on all of the actors as we shoot, so that we have that for reference, and we don't capture hands either. So when you see the raw mocap come back,
You don't get to be jealous.
the physical performance is there, but not the subtleties. And so all that facial animation, the subtlety of it, the little eye movements, that's a credit to our animators that have all that traditional training, who are kind of leveraging off of what you do on stage, but then giving it just that extra little exaggeration that brings the characters to life.
He can't know about us.
He's gonna be pissed.
In film, you get to see dailies every now and then. This is one of the very few games that I can think of. You guys actually bring in some of the animation that we've done, and they show us what they've already rendered. And it really gives you an idea of oh, so that's what it looks like.
But we get the scope of some of the buildings that we're supposed to be in, inside the temples and inside these areas where you suddenly realize that you're this big in this massive animation when you're in a small room, but then you realize you can focus, you can look in these distant areas.
And also seeing it in real time. That was what blew me away the first time I worked on mocap, that not only am I working on this blank stage, but I can look up on the wall, I can see myself in real time doing the scene, and they can basically put you anywhere.
nice.
There's a stalactite up there.
That's interesting. We should mention that not only do we have a director there, we have the writer-producer there.
The animator.
We have Josh
Yeah.
Cher there doing the animation, and Taylor with the sound. And how many times during the shoot are the four of them, Gordon and Amy and Josh and Taylor, huddled? You get what you need, you get what you need, and then they go to their little corners and we do something else, and then they come back together.
But I feel like in motion capture, it's almost like you have to use your imagination a little bit more. I mean, some of us have worked on sci-fi shows where you're dealing with green screen, but in this, when you're working mocap, you only have your mocap suit.
But it is hard in the suits.
Yeah.
It's hard in the suits,
No,
especially
go to
to do things like a love scene. We had to do.
Inserting a ball joke here, but I'm gonna
No,
restrain
please don't.
myself.
Too late.
But we had to do a scene that was apparently, from what I'd been told by you guys, a little bit more forward and physically more intimate and went a little bit further than you'd done before. But Josh had actually said to us, one of the animators said, don't actually kiss. I mean, you can if it helps in the scene because that's what they're going to do at the scene's end. But you guys don't have to do it as performers because it looks really weird trying to animate kissing anyway. And
Like that?
Nolan was making me laugh so much, and it's sort of you've got the Velcro, and if you touch, you get stuck, and you've got to try and pull yourselves off each other. And
And remember how you get this close, and the funny thing is they're supposed to be a really nice, passionate kiss. So her face is here, and we're laughing. She's this far away, and we're moving our heads like.
and we've got the option of
This is
kissing,
this-
but then they would call cut, and I go and release, and we sort of never did it. And he's like, "You're not going to do it, are you? You can't do it." I'm like, no, "Hey, they said we didn't have to."
Yeah, she didn't
so-"
have to, so why bother? So I.
But I had to ask you at one point. I just said, "Can you just try and be sexy for 1 second?" Trust me, because the suits are pretty. They're pretty. They're not bringing sexy back, let's put it that way. And I actually had to say to Nolan at one point, could you just try and be sexy for 1 second? Just 1 second.
That would no, but that was that scene or was that the other one where you
Something else,
you
I'm
get,
sure, but-
There was one where she kisses me on the cheek, which she had no problem with. Animators didn't seem to have any problem. I think there needs to be more sexual content in the next one.
Well, I think we sort of freaked out some of the fans. Their brains almost exploded with that scene alone in the trailer of me seducing you in the hotel room. I thought you'd want to be in on the action.
So what's the plan?
The interesting thing about, it goes back to like kids as actors, and is actually doing the physicality in the mocap suit. And you know, as an actor, the more that you can, it's like when they have a stunt double. You're like, no, let me do this part. It's not dangerous yet. You know, I can do this, and because you really can get that performance. And remember that one where I literally got to jump, and you were a little concerned about me doing that at first, but.
Well, we've hurt everybody once, at least.
Well, I don't care. I mean, but I mean, but that's the fun part of this. I mean, that's my 8-year-old and his brother running around in the clubhouse, and you know.
But that goes back to the kind of collaborative, like, freedom that we have, because I even remember, I think, in that scene where, I think that's where the scooch line came in or something.
Yeah.
Like, he's jumping in and, you know, here's scooch over, and just being allowed to say those
Yeah,
things.
she said
with
scooch over, right? Scooch
Yeah.
over, and I went, scooch? Like, who says scooch?
And then it's like back in the action, and it's
Yeah.
just being allowed to do that and not have like 12 writers be like, but no, really.
You know what? But you know what? You know
There's
what
one
was?
writer doing that too.
Yeah.
There's the one thing that is difficult in the mocap was, and I don't know if you were actually doing the acting scenes in the other room, but every now and then they'll grab us, and everybody knows what I'm talking about.
That's when everybody
and we
gets
have
hurt.
to go do. That's when everyone gets hurt. You have to go do like. For the game players, okay, here's Drake wants to shoot on a 45-degree angle. We're running across, like, literally it's the size of a basketball court at a 45-degree angle, and then backwards, and then the side step, and then the 45-degree to the left, and we're running back and forth, and then, no.
Jump down like this, and then come back up, and then go like this, and then come back up for like 20 minutes.
I had to
No,
do
but
that.
run down there and jump to the
Yeah,
floor.
is the propane. They decided in this game
Uncharted,
that they're
that's
going to
it.
bring in these propane tanks. So first day, we come on, it's like, okay, we're just going to throw a few propane tanks around. It's like, no, we're literally going to throw propane tanks. So we're running up and down, you know, back and forth, 20 feet this way, 20 feet that way. And now we're throwing them. Somebody's got a
propane
pad.
tank.
I'm throwing like a huge propane tank up against a pad. Worried I'm going to knock Taylor over.
Yeah, and you remember what they said? It was like, well, they're empty, so they're lighter. It's like, it's a metal propane tank.
I had to.
And so when the player is playing those games and you hear Drake go, "Ugh,"
It's real.
that was actually my spleen tearing.
I had to on the first game before we realized like what we were capable of and we're not capable of. I remember there was a block this big, a huge padded block, a meter-high block, and I remember that weekend I was flying to Seattle for my best friend's wedding, and but you know, I wanted to do the same thing. I'm like, no, just let me do it, man. I'll do that. I'll kick that block. And so we did it like a few like a few times, and it's like from the ground, just jump on the block, just like grab the block, like jump down from the block, and you're just like, it's impact, impact, impact. I remember walking down the aisle for my best friend's wedding and my heels being like, uncharted, uncharted, smile, because I was like in so much pain.
Next time we're not going to let any of you do any of that.
Well,
It's
but
all-
the beauty of
Richard-
it is it's in the computer now,
He wrecked
so
his
you've got
leg.
it.
Richard, didn't you like twist an ankle or a knee?
That wasn't on the meter block, that was on Apple
knee.
Blocks, I think.
Yeah.
He twisted his knee doing all the in-game moves. But that's the cool thing. It's like rather than, you know, a lot of those moves are it's us.
Well, the reality of us being able to do that, and it is, it's like when I play the game or I watch it, it's kind of crazy because you get to see yourself do it.
But you've got to be careful because the balls, I mean, it's captured very specifically. Do you know that scene where we're talking about the plan and we're sitting at the table and you guys played it back to me one day and I went, oh my God, they've got my legs the way that I must have been sitting on the day. Now Chloe's probably a bit more confident, a bit more butch, would have sat somewhere like this. But there's little old Claudia thinking that she's not being filmed from here, like a, you know, reading the news, they're not going to see what's below here. So my leg was sort of in this really dorky position, and now it's ended up in the game.
Yeah, but that gave it gave a dimension to Chloe that you would not normally get. But it gave this little feminine side. I thought that was really, really cool.
Bigger muscle guys in here because they can't be in the room. The power. Got the meat hooks coming left at you. You're watching the right, it's again left. The right is just like, could stay home. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
プレイステーション